very important, very timely issue that America's man's man is addressing right here, right now, and that's the effects of 5G in the next presidential election, the 2020 elections. This is military-grade technology. Technology which, according to declassified 1960s CIA documents, is capable. Now, notwithstanding the cancer that you'll get down the road, the high band, when I say high band, I mean a certain type of frequency range, way up there, kind of closer to microwaves than, it's like sticking your head in a microwave, is what it is. High band frequency waves, which the military is already using to decapacitate victims immediately. Again, notwithstanding the fact that there's going to be a bump in. People are already getting a bump in tumors in their ear, right, from using cell phones too much. The humanity of it. Telecommunications industry rolling out a long line of sellout doctors, the same people who sold out to the, not only psychopharmaceuticals and the cancer pain medication, the opioid dependency pharmaceuticals. Yeah, those sellout doctors. These are the people endorsing 5G. Oh, we'll be able to perform surgery with robots. It sounds like the dystopian Terminator 2 exhibit that used to exist at Universal Studios. Oh, you can rock your baby to sleep halfway across the world with our robot cradles. It'll be like you're really there. And this is the argument for 5G. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of Massachusetts and Silicon Valley startups which have invested in this ridiculously expensive technology which allows surgeons to perform, this is the argument they're using, surgeons to perform surgeries by use of robots in your house, or if you're halfway around the world. Never mind that, of course, they have to install these death box transmitters wherever they're actually being used. Okay, big line number 2. Anyway, so these boxes of death are capable of inducing various states, according to CIA declassified research from the 1960s. These death boxes are capable of transmitting frequencies which, depending upon how Silicon Valley's ecosystem, Google, all of the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google and Netflix, the most antisocial keyboard jockeys ever. This is their sandbox. These high band frequencies, now that I think I've defined them, roughly enough, are capable. And it's a given that they're going to give you cancer years from now, but they're capable of immediately inducing states of grogginess, physiological states of grogginess, of disorientation. Remember, our military is using the very same waves and the very same frequencies and the very same power levels that these death boxes are capable of emitting in your neighborhood. Military is already using these to decapacitate victims. And now Google, which already has a long proven and well-documented history of manipulating election results, Google is going to be able to control. The FANG companies of Silicon Valley are going to be able to control a military-grade death box installed on your light pole, which, as federal law exists now, and sadly I have to say with no thanks to our wonderful President Donald Trump, our otherwise wonderful President Donald Trump, as of yet, our municipalities have no power to regulate these boxes of death. Federal government passed legislation thanks to none other than Hillary Clinton's miserable husband, Hillary Clinton's miserable wife, Hillary Clinton's miserable husband, Bubba, he passed this legislation back in the 1990s, I think 93, Telecommunications Act, which it's unconstitutional. Tells your neighborhood, your municipality, your town meeting, your city government, you have no power to outzone these death boxes in your neighborhood. Make no mistake about it, Google, which has already pestered the people whom they want to vote to death to get out to the polls, and distracted the people they don't want to vote from not coming out. Releasing a whole slew of stupid Netflix specials and advertising them. Google does this, and putting those little messages on the Google search box that that it doesn't matter what they are. The point is to manipulate you and to make you do what Google. They've already used the profound power of suggestive advertising to make sure that the people they want to vote go to the polls, and the people whom they don't want to vote don't go to the polls. That's been bad enough. I mean, they almost destroyed the integrity of the last election by sending so many votes to Hillary Clinton it was very likely that she would have won, and that the fake news was counting on that happening. Well, can you trust Google to responsibly, ethically, civilly operate military-grade death boxes outside your window, which your town, which your municipality, as of yet, and of course this needs to change, as of yet has no power to zone out these boxes which are hazardous to your health? I wonder how much the American Cancer Society is being paid off to say that there is no evidence. They repeat the same line over and over again. There's no evidence of damage to your health from cell phone exposure, from the RF exposure from cell phone towers, 5G and otherwise. Children have died in California because these boxes have been installed. These 5G boxes have been installed on schools. Oh, they're perfectly harmless, right? And who are the people who are trying to profit off of this? Well, one of the big groups is those startup companies which are building these robots that can perform surgery halfway across the world. For when you get tumors down the road from walking around with all this RF radio frequency and all the manipulation. Listen, Google and the whole Fang Valley, Silicon Valley ecosystem, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, they're going to use this. They're going to, it's a given that it's going to be weaponized, even over the course of normal use. These 5G boxes are going to have a palpable effect, and they already are. I know from people who are near them that they're already having a palpable effect on their health and well-being and psychological state. But that's just the unintentional side effects. Google already manipulates or attempts to manipulate election results, and there's a very dangerous. These things need to be turned off before the election. They need to be completely dead. They need to be completely zoned out because they need to be completely. They need to be shut down. The 5G boxes, because they represent a threat to the sacred American right of people to vote. They're too easily weaponizable, if that's a word. They can be too easily weaponized. Yeah, they're too easily weaponizable. If they're, I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but we're going to go with it. They're too easily weaponizable. They're too easily. It's just way too easy to manipulate. These military grade weapons is what they are in our neighborhoods, in our towns, in our cities across America. And we need to stand up against the powerful. It used to be the pharmaceuticals you had to look out for, and the doctors that would sell out to the pharmaceuticals to get kickbacks from the pharmaceuticals. Now, the people trying to profit off of your misery, the up and coming, just like Silicon Valley is the new fake news, so-called social media, which is really antisocial, is manipulating people, on steroids, with far more efficiency than the old tabloid journalism could have done. And I'm of the mindset that most journalism really is tabloid journalism, but that's another story for another day. In the same way that anti-social media is the new fake news. These death boxes in our neighborhoods, these 5G death boxes, these military-grade weapons, which both are causing cancer already, in people who are exposed to the RF radiation in them, which is true of 4G and LTE as well, but these death boxes, beyond the immediate effects of carcinogenic RF exposure, these very powerful by proximity. When we talk about power, we always have to consider proximity. They're less powerful. They're actually less harmful. Well, RF radiation, the way it works is that it's more powerful. It's exponentially more powerful the closer it is to you. So yeah, I mean, it's like if you were to stand next to a 50,000 watt radio antenna, you'd be fried. You're dead. So, day in and day out, you have one of these boxes literally outside your window. Maybe your neighbor has sold out to the company. The Verizon, AT&T, Sprint approaches your neighbor and says, "Well, we'd really like to here take $1,000 a month, and we just want to put this little thing under your cactus here. No one will see it. It'll be totally unobtrusive. We're just going to hand you $1,000 a month. Sounds good, right?" And your neighbor takes it because well, he's no schmuck. It's a free $1,000 a month, right? And that's next door to your house. Again, proximity. Proximity is where power-wise these things are unhealthy for you, even though they're less powerful than the old ones. And first of all, no, they're actually their effective radiated power to you is more powerful. It's a ton more powerful because it's right outside your window. Maybe it's on the lamp post across the street or on the same side of the street as you're on. And of course the high band frequencies, just like in your microwave. It's like sticking your head in a microwave or getting shot by one of the modern weapons that our military uses. And not only that, depending on the particular frequency which Google decides to admit at any given time. I say Google, but I mean the whole Thang Valley ecosystem, right? the Amazon, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and all the trickle down ecosystem, all the people that suck up to these keyboard jockeys, these antisocial Zuckerbergs. Depending, it's not only that they can press a button and they're gonna wreak havoc on your mind. Depending on how they press that button, again, according to research on these high band frequencies, which was done by the CIA back in the 1960s. So we've known about this for a long time. This is just a case of legislation not catching up with the profound desire of the telecommunications industry to manipulate us for profit, like they've always done. Depending on the way they control these 5G boxes outside your window, they're capable of putting you in a state. In I think there are four psychological states that they may induce. There's like one that's just total grogginess. There's one that's total disassociation, and there are two others. But the point is, there's a very profound. First of all, these are more powerful than existing cell towers because of the proximity that they have to you and will have to you if the telecommunication industry has their way. They're draining your wallet like anything that's bad for you. It's a profound like cigarette smoking or alcohol. They say, oh well, you have to pay to get the marvelous advantages of 5G, which is a very sneaky lie, because the implication is that you're not paying for it if you're not paying for 5G, but we're all paying for it. The select people who can afford to be early adopters, and typically are early adopters, it's way too big for them to pay for. Even if they charge through the nose, all of us are paying for it, and they'll sneak the cost into your cell phone bill whether you pay for it or not. But the biggest cost is the integrity of our election system, our sacred election system that these boxes are interfering with. And 5G boxes must be halted immediately, at least during the election. Immediately, there needs to be an emergency order passed by President Trump. Are you listening? You need to pass an emergency order. President Trump, he's got a lot of friends in the telecom industry, but he'd be wise to listen. He'd be wise to make sure that his friends in the telecom industry don't cost him the next election. I mean, is the money that the telecommunications industry is giving him worth it? I mean, is it worth losing the election? I don't think it is. But it could come down to that voting area in Michigan, and maybe President Trump's team has done all the research just like they did in the last election, and they know, well, these people will definitely vote for Trump. Well, we got this in the bag, but then on election day, Google turns up the wattage in all of those areas which always vote for Trump. Oh, there's just a mysterious dropout in voting in these urban areas where 5G has been installed in Michigan and Boston. Well, Boston probably. We can have hope that Boston will go for Trump, right? Moreover, though, even if you're not even if you're one of those two people in the United States who don't support our good president. If you believe that these death boxes, which are an immediate threat to our elections, to the integrity of our elections, if you think that's a way to win the election, it's going to backfire for you. It may not backfire for you tomorrow, may not backfire for you the day after, but eventually it's going to backfire. And if you don't think your Democratic cronies are going to kowtow to the telecommunications industry and keep those death boxes humming outside your window, well, all I'm saying is you may want to invest in the real estate and the construction companies which install wire mesh in the houses, because gone will be the days when you can take a dip in your pool in suburbia, or take a walk through that trail that you love in your neighborhood, that maybe in the state of Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts has forced every municipality to install this stupid rail trail thing. Gone are the days when you can go for a pleasant walk in the woods without suddenly being hit with immense headaches when Google and the FANG companies want you to have a headache. Your house, your wire mesh insulated house, will be the only place it's safe for you to walk around. And, well, you're just not going to be able to do anything about it. You're going to have to move out to a cabin in the woods where there's no 5G, where it's not economically feasible for the telecom industry to install 5G boxes. So, but anyway, in the immediate, to protect and preserve the integrity of the sacred American voting process, all 5G boxes must be turned off or destroyed or something before the next election. Because regardless of whatever investment may have been made in those 5G boxes, more important is the integrity of our election, is our sacred election process, which is a fundamental building block to the way that to our civil society. We can't. America is not America. First of all, without Jesus Christ, without God, and part of that is it's the consent of the governed. America rests on the consent of the governed. If there's no consent of the governed, there's no America. There's no election. We must have this. We must have these 5G boxes turned off for the election. This is America's Man's Man, AmericasMansMan.com. Because, just to clarify, if I haven't made the point clear enough, because they're too easily weaponizable, and the people who have control over them, namely the FANG companies, have a proven history of weaponizing this. Of weaponizing the technology they have, and now they have military-grade technology that they're installing in my neighborhood, in your neighborhood, and even if they didn't have a track record of devious manipulation, which Google and the FANG companies, they have a long rap list. Even if they didn't, on principle, you wouldn't allow a federal, you wouldn't allow federal troops to exercise martial law in your neighborhood, without some kind of national emergency or that sort of thing, because it's against our Constitution. At least you have the right to fight back. Well, in the old days, that's why we have a right to form militias as needed to protect ourselves from the federal government. The telecom industry is essentially planting troops in our neighborhoods. It's a more sophisticated military weaponized weapon than a gun is, but it's nonetheless potent because it can decapacitate you without you even knowing what the heck is happening to you. And in the same way that we have a right to bear arms to protect ourselves from the federal government's, the military getting out of control, every municipality needs to stand up against these military-grade weapons in our backyard. Because that legislation that Bubba signed back in 1993 is unconstitutional. It has side effects that very few of us were aware of back then, even though the research has been around since the 1960s, that this technology is dangerous and weaponizable. If just like a gun, just like the federal government shouldn't plant troops in our backyard and have us not have a right to defend ourselves with guns. The federal government should not be able to plant these these weapons, which are very tied into the federal government and FCC regulations, which really regulate this. Power is concentrated in the hands of a very few people. Some are government, and most of them are in Silicon Valley. Because let's face it, I mean, the Silicon Valley will always out manipulate the government. But that's, the stupidity of the collective stupidity, or the collective inefficiency of government is no is of no help to the citizenry here. When Silicon Valley is pulling the strings, when the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Netflix are pulling the strings, 5G is a threat to the sacred American electoral process, and thus our very integrity as a nation. So these 5G boxes must be demonstrably turned off. So, because we can't trust, Verizon, Sprint, like, okay, yeah, we'll turn them off for election day. No. We don't trust them. We don't trust them. We don't trust Google. These boxes need to be visually decapacitated. Even surrounded by, like you have those even boxes that prevent them from transmitting. Even if there's, I wouldn't trust the telecom industry to say put a box around them, a wire mesh box around them, because the telecom industry would probably be manipulating us, and they probably wouldn't work. They need to be taken down. The 5G boxes must be taken down before election day, because it's going to mess with the integrity of the electoral process. And the telecom industry needs to stop. America needs to get wise to the reason that the telecom industry is so eager to push these into our neighborhoods, so that they can have legal rights of precedent, which ultimately are moot because these are weapons. They're weapons, and because of the number of the boxes, because of the sheer quantity of them, and the density and the density with which these boxes populate your neighborhood, they can target anybody they want. They can target anyone who's close to that box, and they can target people within a certain radius of each box. So it's not only that they're weaponizable, they can target people very selectively by just knowing where they're planted, and saying, oh, those people didn't get sick. Well, it's very dangerous stuff. And 5G boxes need to be removed. They need to be taken down before the next election. And the American people should not have any excuses from telecom, from big pharma, from the sellout doctors who are touting the medical marvels of ridiculous quantities of radiation being piped into your house. Whatever the benefits are, they're not worth. They are far outweighed by the evils, the drains on your psychology, on your body, your physiology. 5G needs to go. This is America's Man's Man. AmericasMansman.com.